recognize Ms. Mace from South Carolina.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the invitation to participate in today's hearing. Ms. Goss-Graves, so-called, quote, expert in women's rights. Do you know how many years it took South Carolina to elect its first Republican woman to Congress?
Well, what year did...
100 years since women got the right to vote. Do you know how many years it took the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina, to graduate its first woman?
Well,
157 years. So I have a series of yes or no questions I would like to ask you based on some of your previous statements. In your opening statement today, you said trans women are women. Ms. Goss-Graves, what is a woman?
So a woman is an adult female. A woman identifies as a woman, and I actually think it is...
What do you consider a female? What is a female?
So there are some women who were assigned a female...
You say you're here to defend women. You say you're here to defend women, but shouldn't you be able to define one? Shouldn't you be able to define one if you're for women's rights?
That's literally what I...
Ms. Goss-Graves, do women have penises?
So again, I believe that women...
Democrats have gone so crazy. Women can have penises. That's not a thing. That's not biology. It's not science. And you sound like a lunatic.
And the women...
Should young girls just get used to penises in their locker rooms and showers? My next question, yes or no. Should little girls get used to penises in their locker rooms and showers? Yes or no?
I don't know what you're talking about, but what I will say...
Oh, I absolutely do. We've heard testimony today about trans women. Those are women with penises. Those aren't real women. I'm going to reclaim my time. When President Trump issued an executive order to keep men out of women's sports, thank God he did, you said it was sexist bullying that harms all students.
Correct.
Is it sexist, yes or no, to protect women from men in sports? Yes or no?
If
can't answer the question. Is it sexist to acknowledge basic science? Men and women are built differently. Is it sexist to acknowledge science? Can't answer the question. Does forcing little girls to strip down in front of men in locker rooms harm girls? Does forcing little girls to strip down in front of men in the locker room harm little girls? Yes or no? Can't answer the question. Does forcing little girls to shower... I'm going to reclaim my time. You can quit talking. These are yes or no questions. You can answer them or not. And you've chosen not to answer the questions today because you don't know how. It's shameful.
I know how to answer.
Do you support drugging and chopping off kids' genitals in the name of inclusion? Is that a thing for you?
I have to say...
You get off on that?
So stunned.
All right. When a biological man crushes a girl in a contact sport and sends her to the ER, is that your idea of empowerment? Is that empowering women when a young man beats a girl and takes her, sends her to the ER in a contact sport? Is that empowering women? Is that what that is?
Are you talking about Ms. McNabb?
I'm talking about any woman who gets crushed in a sport by a man physically and has to go to the ER.
Ms. McNabb and others.
I'm going to reclaim my time.
So,
Madam Chair, we'll show that the witness. I'm going to reclaim my time. You can stop talking now. I'm reclaiming.
This is Ms. Mace's time, Ms. Goss-Graves.
I would like some of that time back, Madam Chair. If a man can be a woman, just identify as a woman, as you say, just by saying so, what is the point of having women's sports? What is the point of women's spaces? What is the point of women's scholarships if you're just going to allow men to take them away? Why even bother? Why bother? The loudest voices, I'm not asking you a question, I'm speaking. The loudest voices on the left claiming to fight for women's rights are the very first people to take them away, steal them, and tear these women down. You're the first to erase them. Mr. Leifelt, Ms. Goss-Graves, you all are shameful. I didn't come here to play with an ideology hell-bent on erasing women and grooming children. That's what you all are. You're groomers. And we're not going to. The chairwoman and I, Madam Chair, I'm going to reclaim
that. This is Ms. Mace's time. Ms. Goss-Graves. Ms. Goss-Graves.
This is a shocking thing to say about
Ms. Goss-Graves, you are not recognized.
Okay, but I just want to say that is a shocking.
You are not recognized, Ms. Goss-Graves. The time belongs to Ms. Mace.
Okay, fine.
Like Chairwoman Graham, I've been holding the line for women, standing between perverts and the rights of women and girls, and we're not going to let anyone in this country forget what a woman is. Mr. Leifelt, will you face Ms. Stephanie Turner today? Will you look her in the eyes? Will you apologize to her for the way that she was treated by USA Fencing, standing up for women and girls, women's rights, standing her ground as a woman who only wanted to fence with other women? Will you apologize to her today?
Congresswoman Mace, Ms. Turner was given a black card under our rules.
Will you apologize for the way she was treated? So that's a no. Will you apologize to her today? Congresswoman Mace, Ms. Turner was given a black card under our rules. So that's a no. Will you apologize for the way she was treated? So that's a no. Will you apologize for the way she was treated? So that's a no. Will you apologize for the way she was treated? So that's a no. Will you apologize for the way she was treated? So that's a no. Will you apologize for the way she was treated? So that's a no. Will you apologize for the way she was treated? So that's a no. Will you apologize for the way she was treated? So that's a no. Will you apologize for the way she was treated? So that's a no. Will you apologize for the way she was treated? So that's a no. Will you apologize for the way she was treated? So that's a no. Will you apologize for the way she was treated? So that's a no. Will you apologize for the way she was treated? So that's a no. Will you apologize for the way she was treated? So that's a no. Will you apologize for the way she was treated? So that's a no. Will you ap
So,
Won't do it.
Congresswoman, if I could respond to one thing.
You know what's
Ms.
unbecoming of a
Turner's-
leader? You said this just in your testimony just like 5 minutes ago.
Yes, ma'am.
That you've said several things that are just disgusting and unbecoming of a leader, to use your words. It's unbecoming of a leader today to acknowledge what has happened to this young woman. You just look at her face and look what she has been through, the courage it took her to stand up for her rights as a woman and other women in other sports all across the country. And you can't even as a man look her in the eye and apologize for what happened to her.
I now recognize myself for 5 minutes for the purpose of asking questions. No one is here today to harm transgenders. We are here to defend girls and women, and we are here to defend Title IX and to uphold President Trump's executive order that all biological males stay out of girls' and women's sports. Here displayed behind me is the post that Mr. Leifelt put up. Mr. Leifelt came in here today saying that this is game day. You're right, Mr. Leifelt, this is game day. Under the Ted Stevens Act, USA Fencing and other national governing bodies that are authorized to oversee individual sports on a national level have a certain obligation. One such duty is to provide support and encouragement for participation by women, where separate programs for male and female athletes are conducted on a national basis. Another statutory duty is to promote a safe environment in sports that is free from abuse of any amateur athlete, including emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. Mr. Leifelt, as the board chair of USA Fencing, surely you are aware of these legal requirements. That means you believe that forcing a woman to compete against a biological man promotes a safe environment that is free from emotional abuse. Is that correct?
One moment, a point of order, please,
You're
Madam
not.
Chair.
You're not. Okay,
Madam
what is
Chair,
yours?
I have a point of order. The document that you have up behind you is a misrepresentation of the actual post. It appears that you're trying to misrepresent a witness here who you use subpoena powers against.
This is not Miss
This is-
Stansbury. Miss Stansbury, this is not a
This
point
is
of order.
the actual picture.
Miss Stansbury,
that she has
you're not
flipped and
recognized.
put
Miss
on the
Stansbury,
board
you're not
behind me.
recognized. Miss Stansbury, you are not recognized.
Madam Chairwoman.
You are not. This is not a
misrepresenting
point
the
of order.
truth.
Miss Stansbury,
You are
this is not a point of order.
misrepresenting what this committee does. You are misrepresenting the
Stansbury.
witnesses. You are misrepresenting policy. You are misrepresenting.
Miss Stansbury, you're not recognized. You're not recognized. That's not a point of order. You're abusing the rules of this committee. This is the post of Mr. Leifelt that he posted himself on his own social media. And that's exactly why we have it displayed here today, because Mr. Leifelt believes that he can take away the opportunities for women to compete in USA Fencing, and he thinks this is game day to defend biological men. Now, we're going to return to my time as chair of this committee. Ms. Turner, refusing to compete against a man cost you a 12-month probation. Did you feel you were in a safe environment, free from abuse, when you were told you must compete against a man in an all-out competition?
No.
No, that wasn't free from emotional abuse. Ms. McNabb, when a biological man spiked a ball into your head, were you free from physical or emotional abuse?
I was not.
Ms. McNabb, did you feel you were placed in a safe environment when you faced a biological male in a girls' volleyball game?
No, I did not feel safe.
Ms. Turner, were you safe when you were forced to go up against a biological male in your sport?
No, I was not.
Mr. Leifelt, do you think your perception of what constitutes a safe environment for women is more valid than that of a woman testifying here today?
Congresswoman, thank you for your question. There was a study that was published in 2010 regarding the safety of sports in the Olympic movement. There were 51 sports that were assessed as part of that study.
That's a yes or no question, Mr. Leifelt. Do you is
Ma'am,
that
it's
your
a-
perception? You're
it's a
sitting
more
next to
nuanced
a young
answer.
woman who received a brain injury from a biological male. Is it safe to compete against biological males? Yes or no, Mr. Leifelt?
What happened to Miss?
Yes or no?
What happened to Miss McNabb
I'll take
was
that as a no. Mr. Leifelt, do you think forcing a woman to change in front of a man in a locker room is abusive? Yes or no?
Congresswoman, I'm not sure I
Do you
follow the
want your
question.
daughter to change in front of biological men in locker rooms? Yes or no?
My daughter isn't really something that should be part of this
Oh,
hearing,
I'm going to,
respectfully.
if you're not a quick no on that, we're going to take that as a no. We're going to switch gears to USA Fencing site selection policy. You're the chair of USA Fencing. You should be familiar. Mr. Leifelt, what does abortion have to do with fencing?
Congresswoman, that policy was passed before I got on the board. However, when
You're the chair of the board now. What does abortion have to do with fencing, Mr. Leifelt?
I'm on the board, you're correct, and I offered an amendment to that policy back in December, Congresswoman, that allowed for more flexibility at the
What,
city
to
level.
get an abortion while you're at fencing competitions? I don't
And it
think
also
so.
allowed for better convenience. So we enhanced the policy
More
under my
convenience to
leadership under the
Planned
board.
Parenthood centers. Mr. Leifelt, why does USA Fencing states abortion policies and LGBTQ policies in its site selection process to determine where tournaments are held? That's part of your site selection process, is abortion availability and states and cities that are friendly to LGBTQ policies. How is that part of USA Fencing?
Congresswoman, we try to have tournaments in sites that are safe for all of our members, period.
So you don't think red states are safe for fencing athletes?
Red states are absolutely safe, and we regularly host tournaments there, including Texas, Ohio,
No,
Missouri.
your site selection policies are based on abortion availability and LGBTQ availability, not on fencing, not on your sport. Now let's go a little bit further with this.
Madam Chairwoman, your time has expired.
You're not recognized, Ms. Crockett. Mr. Leifelt, you wrote a blog post where you said that one day your daughter
Madam
might
Chair, on a point of
compete-
order.
This is my time, and I'm the chair of the
No,
committee.
that was your time. Your time is over, and now we're asking, are we?
The chair has discretion to assign
I've
time,
lost
and you know it,
time.
sir.
I have lost
As long as
time.
we have that understanding, that's fine.
I have lost time.
I yield 2.5 minutes to the chair lady.
Mr. Leifelt, you wrote a blog post where you said that one day your daughter might compete against a transgender woman, a biological man. You said that if she did, you might win or she might lose. But whatever the result, you hope she doesn't care about the outcome, because the important thing is that both she and her opponent enjoy the match. That's what you wrote in your little trans manifesto. But you came here today to win. And you came here today to defeat women in their own sport. So as you stand here before this committee today, you are a man that would tell your daughter to lose and enjoy it to a biological man. My time has expired. And now recognize Mr. Gill from Texas.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. This is an excellent hearing, and we really appreciate your leadership, incredible leadership on this topic and on this community, on this issue. And I'd also like to thank our witnesses, Ms. Turner and Ms. McNabb, for particularly moving testimonies. And thank you for your bravery for coming here. I know it takes a lot of guts to testify before a congressional committee. Mr. Leifelt, I'd like to ask you a few questions. Do you think that men should be allowed in women's locker rooms?
Sir, those regulations are set by tournament
I'm
organizers.
just asking you yes or no. Do you think men should be allowed in women's locker rooms?
I don't have a personal opinion on
You don't
this,
have
sir.
you have a personal opinion on a lot of things, but not on that?
Sure. I mean, it's a locker room is not really an area where people interact.
So the answer is yes.
I don't
Do you
really
think
have
that men should be allowed to share showers with women in athletic facilities?
I think that showering is a private activity and that it should be private.
And it should be private. There's oftentimes communal showers. Are you okay with men showering with women?
I don't have an opinion on that in the context of USA.
You don't.
So.
Interesting. That's an astounding thing to not have an opinion on. I think most normal people have an opinion on that. Are you okay with women being at a disadvantage when competing against men in sports?
Sir, mixed events happen all the time, and
No,
women are
that's
often.
not my question. Are you okay with, let me ask it this way, are you okay with cis females being at a disadvantage?
If their competitor, assuming that you're talking about,
It's a yes or no
transgender
question.
female, that they've met the requirements set forth in the policy.
Why
it's assumed
did
to be
you
an
post
equal
on
playing
social
field.
media for the world to see? You were asked in an anonymous question, which you posted online, are you okay with cis females being at a disadvantage? You said, yeah.
Yeah, I believe it was Congressman Cloud that had asked me about that, sir, and I'm happy to address it again. That was a one-word answer to a more nuanced topic, and I feel like if I could take it back and expound a little bit more than what I had there.
Reclaiming my time.
Sure.
Do you think that do you think that parents who don't want their daughters competing against men in women's sports are whiny?
No, sir.
You don't? Why did you write that on social media? I've got a picture here where you posted that. You were allegedly responding to a parent who didn't want their daughter being beaten up by men in sports competitions. You said, I'm not going to pull her from the sport and write a whiny email announcing my departure.
Sir, Mr. Congressman Jack had asked me about that, and want to be crystal clear, that was an inappropriate message.
Do you think that they're cowardly?
Sir, no, I don't. I don't at all. And in fact,
why did you write that on social media?
I regret it, sir. I deleted it shortly after posting, and I certainly don't feel that way anymore. And given a lot of the messages that we receive, and even conversations that I've had,
do you think
with
that
Ms.
parents
Turner,
who don't want their daughters competing against men in sports should be compared to the Ku Klux Klan?
No, absolutely not. And I
why
acknowledge
did you
that I
do
said
that?
that in the message, sir.
Why did you do that?
That was inappropriate.
That was inappropriate?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you're right. That isn't inappropriate. I'd like to read what you wrote and what you posted on social media.
Sure.
Responding allegedly to a lady who had these concerns. The only wizard that's going to dig you out of the myopic hole you've put yourself and your family in is one of the, quote, grand wizard variety.
Inappropriate, sir, and I acknowledge that I said it, and I will commit to never making a message like that again.
That was in response to a parent, according to you on social media, who had a problem with this. Was this a real email that you were responding to?
It was a real email, sir. I did not respond to it and hit send.
This was a real email. Did an actual parent write this, or did you write this email?
It was written by an actual person claiming to be a parent. They were not a member of our...
Were you that actual person?
No, sir.
You were not that actual person, but you staged this whole interaction.
The response, sir, was not real, and I regret that.
Okay. You think inclusivity presumably is a big part of the fencing community, is that right?
I would say so, sir. We're a very welcoming community, and I'm proud of that.
Are you welcoming to Trump supporters?
Absolutely.
Then why did you, on your Facebook page, from the fencing coach, write, imagine being one of 71 million people dumb enough to vote re-election for a treasonous clown who's permanently banned from Twitter for inciting an insurrection, you mad MAGA bros?
I acknowledge that I stated that in my personal capacity, sir. However, as chair,
that was from the fencing coach.
I have to acknowledge that 77 million people voted for him in re-election.
That wasn't your personal capacity. That was from your capacity as, quote, the fencing coach online.
Yes, that is my blog, sir. That's my publication, and I acknowledge writing that.
All right, my time is up. Thank you.
最后，再让我们听听击剑运动员斯蒂芬妮·特纳的亲身经历。
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Green and Ranking Member Stansbury and members of the committee. It's a privilege to be invited here to speak to you today. I started fencing at the University of Maryland College Club team 12 years ago and became competitive within the United States Fencing Association a year later. What started as a hobby quickly became a deep passion of mine. In these past 12 years, I estimate that I have spent over 7,000 hours training and over $100,000 between lessons, club dues, competition fees, equipment, and travel. I have dedicated a significant portion of my life to this sport and competition because, like thousands of other women, I love it. My favorite part of fencing is the competition, the thrill, the fight, the triumph, and even the heartache. But lately, fair, female-only competition is harder and harder to come by. USA Fencing has over 200 self-declared members who identify as transgender. Each time a man competes in the women's category, with USA Fencing's support, it removes fair sport and takes opportunities from women. Fencing is a combat sport, a martial art of sorts. There are elements of speed, power, reaction time, distance control, footwork, and blade work, all attributes affected by sex development. It's not uncommon for a quicker, more athletic opponent to overcome the technique of another fencer. Athleticism is powerful in fencing and works in equal parts with strategy and technique. It's unbelievably demeaning to female fencers to put down the differences between men and women and any woman's loss to a man as a skill issue. or that a woman simply needs to work harder. Within the USA Fencing authoritative body, there is a culture of intimidation towards women which demands that we be silent when men enter our tournaments. A culture that includes public humiliation, doxing, social ostracism, dismissal, and even threats. I went from avoiding tournaments with known male athletes to reaching out to news outlets to get this story known. The USA Fencing, up until my protest, has been unresponsive to women's demands for fair fencing, and instead doubled down on efforts to promote male inclusion in the female category. 1 month ago, I took a knee in protest to a man competing in my category, Division 1A women's foil, ironically held at the University of Maryland, where my fencing career began. And the video of my protest went viral. The story of that knee began 3 years ago when I contacted Icons out of desperation for numerous men taking women's national and world titles. Leadership was not only ignoring women, but encouraging and glorifying these men. It felt like there was no place for women in USA Fencing. It took me nearly 3 years to get up the courage to come out publicly. That knee I took in protest was a cry for help and an act of desperation. The night before the tournament, I saw Redmond Sullivan's name on the registration list. I recognized his name from a Redux article as a male fencer within Wagner College's men's team, who switched to the women's NCAA team and the women's USA Fencing division. I cried the whole night and again felt betrayed by USA Fencing. I had already spent the money on competition fees and new equipment and spent hours training and refurbishing my equipment. And I had traveled down from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to College Park, Maryland the night before in preparation for that tournament. I felt trapped. I had been defrauded of a women's tournament and sold a lie by USA Fencing. This was hardly the first time I faced fencing a man in a women's competition. In previous instances, I would wait until the last minute to register for a tournament to see if any known men would register. If they did, I would not sign up. I missed out on numerous regional and national tournaments. I did not want to keep abandoning opportunities to advance my fencing. I had felt so isolated and strangled by USA Fencing for disagreeing with its transgender policy that I felt scared to speak openly online or with friends in the fencing community. I reached out to a church friend asking what I should do. We prayed together and asked God, if it is His will that I protest, that He pair me with Redmond in about that following day. The next morning, I found myself on the platform against him, and I stood down. Speaking out on this issue has made me a target for harassment and violence, as well as cost me friends. I have decided to step away from the sport I love, at least for now as well, because USA Fencing has fostered an environment where I am unwelcome in my own category. It is culturally acceptable to bully and shame women who speak up for other women. I should not have had to make this sacrifice. Women deserve to be treated fairly in sport. We deserve opportunities to train, compete, and win in women's category set aside for women. We deserve this at the lowest levels of sport, all the way through elite Olympic competition. I hope that by taking a stand and raising awareness of the misogyny in our sport, I can help ensure other women and girls do not have to take such risks to receive the most basic protections in sports.